Has the art improved in Boruto? Art in the Boruto manga is pretty frequently criticized. I think if you spend any amount of time online, you will see tons of hate and complaints and all sorts of general distaste towards the artwork in Boruto in comparison to its predecessor, Naruto. But I think in the same vein, you can also tell, if you've been following the series for a long time, that it has come a long way from its first few chapters. Like, just take a look at chapters 1, 2, and 3, and then compare them to the latest chapters in the time skip. You can clearly see there's been significant improvement. I'm just going to preface, I'm not an artist, and in fact, probably very few of us really are here, so I'm not planning on being super critical and judgmental like a lot of people are. Manga technically is a subjective form of art, and what someone finds bad, someone else may enjoy. So yeah, just putting that out there. But I think as a whole, a lot of people don't like the artwork in Boruto, so we're going to discuss it today. I made a list here, and I didn't really organize it in pros and cons, so we're just going to kind of run down through the list. Some of these are things I like, and some of them are things I don't like. So starting off, I wrote here, the action sequences are easy to follow. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm not super experienced with reading manga, but there are definitely some I've read where the action sequences are just really hard to follow and understand what's happening. You have to kind of reread it a few times, or sometimes even like look up a Reddit thread or something to try to figure out what on earth just happened. In Boruto, that's not really the case. Granted, it's not super extreme. It's typically just punches and kicks and that sort of thing. It's just physical action, but the way Ikimoto draws it is pretty easy to follow. I can tell when a punch lands. I can tell when a character's doing some sort of jutsu or move or teleporting, etc. For someone who started reading Boruto as one of their first ever manga, it made it pretty easy for me to kind of follow this story as a first time manga reader, so I do appreciate that. Another thing I'll say is I like Ikimoto's art style. There's probably a difference between art style and then the quality of art itself. I think a style is the way things are drawn, not how detailed or good they are. I might just be making shit up, I don't actually know, but I think he's really good at designing new characters. In fact, he's probably the best at drawing characters he created himself. Kashin Koji, Kawaki, Jigen, and ironically even Naruto. Despite the fact that he didn't create Naruto, he's really good at drawing Naruto. I think Naruto looks better in the manga than he really ever does in the anime. There are other characters, usually the kids, that he's just not good at drawing proportions right. He makes them look like bobbleheads, usually. I saw a funny comment online that said Ikimoto draws kids like they're cosplaying Peter Dinklage, which made me die. It's honestly very accurate that he just makes the heads too big, he doesn't give them any necks, the face is very round, they just look odd. I don't know if that's just the way his style is and that's how he likes drawing them, or if he's just incapable of getting the proportions right. It's honestly hard to tell because sometimes characters will look amazing and then other times it'll be like the depth isn't there, or Boruto's arms are too long, or his legs look kind of weird. And I think he still draws the manga on like pen and paper. He doesn't do digital drawing like basically everyone else does these days, so I feel like he's a bit at a disadvantage. Now, I don't know if this is true, maybe he does draw digitally, but from what I've heard and what I understand, Ikimoto literally just grabs a pen and just starts drawing freehand, which is rare nowadays with all these digital applications and software that you can do crazy special effects with and layering and all sorts of stuff that's probably extremely useful for someone like him who clearly doesn't have all the talent and skills necessary to just freehand like a god. I feel like he's a bit underperforming what he potentially could. Also, I actually did like Sasuke's curly hair in the beginning. I know a lot of people hated on that, but I didn't mind it. I thought it looked cool. It was one of the few things I liked about the early Boruto chapters, and I kind of don't like Sasuke's hair now. It's very bland, in my opinion. Speaking of hairstyles, actually the hair that everyone hates on in Boruto was created by Kishimoto in chapter 7 of the original Naruto manga. I'm talking Gaara's hair, Naruto's hair, so that's not something you can really blame on the Boruto manga or blame on Ikimoto as an artist. That was created by the guy who started Naruto. He wanted them to have that hair. One thing you can complain about is Hinata's hair, because Ikimoto totally changed that from the hairstyle Kishimoto picked. I don't know why, he just kind of liked that traditional Japanese look. Another thing I'll say is that the covers in Boruto have always been pretty impressive. I don't know when exactly they started doing colored chapter covers, but ever since then, I want to say it was maybe like chapter 15, chapter 20 or so, you could tell a lot of effort is actually put into the covers, and I really like them. Some of them are incredible. Like, they just look really badass. Ikimoto loves doing like kind of model poses and different angles, and he gets a lot more creative in the covers themselves than he does sometimes in the actual chapter. I also love the creativity with like the color schemes and the changes in that aspect that Ikimoto loves to do. He loves to mix weird ass colors, but it kind of works. I know Damon's probably a bad example because he just looks kind of silly, but some of his color schemes are kind of cool. I actually like them. I know we talked a lot about the covers, but we should probably talk about the actual panels of the manga. And damn, some panels in Boruto are just underrated. Everyone who complains about Boruto always loves to cherry pick. And I know it's probably cherry picking in the inverse, me showing you the best panels, that's also cherry picking. But on average, I don't think the average Boruto panel is that bad. Especially nowadays. If you take the average Boruto panel, just pick like 10 at random of a chapter back when it started, and then pick 10 at random now, the 10 now are just gonna be better. There's clearly been improvement, which is what I'm trying to get at here. But yeah, these are some of my favorite panels. Some panels in Boruto just look cool. They're just badass. It's not like every panel is really shitty. Shout out to the Boruto coloring community. I'll go ahead and link them in the description below. They do lots of cool stuff. But I probably should stop dick writing. There are a lot of things that I do want to complain about with the Boruto manga's art. Number one, I think the speed lines are just excessive, and they take away from scenes sometimes. They're also just like really rigid and boring to look at, and Ikimoto uses speed lines everywhere. Anytime there's some sort of movement, you're gonna see like a page or two with nothing but speed lines in the background. I much prefer backgrounds, or even no backgrounds at all, over speed lines. They're just so uniformly placed. I don't know, it just looks bland. If he mixed it up a bit and used them less often, I think it would provide huge benefits to the story. Honestly, they're annoying. Another thing to note is that although he is trying to emulate Kishimoto's style, Ikimoto does tend to use like curves and line flows rather than the sharp edges and angles that Kishimoto's known and just love to put in Naruto. Like, I'll find some good examples that they're up here, but you can just see the difference. And I think this is another thing that a lot of people complain about, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, it just doesn't exactly align with the way Kishimoto used to draw. They're not sharp and angular like Kishimoto does. Like, Kishimoto loves to draw very spiky, angular hair, spiky, angular clothes, sharp angles on bodies, and maybe people just don't like that it doesn't look like Kishimoto, in which case they're going to complain about any artist, because no one's going to be able to perfectly replicate another artist's style. In general though, I do think Two Blue Vortex art does look a lot better than the first series. You can tell Ikimoto is just really enjoying his time drawing Boruto. I mean, Boruto specifically. He puts like all of his effort into making Boruto just look cool as hell. Ikimoto also just really excels at character designs. Even if a new character doesn't initially appeal to me, usually they grow on me, and most of the other time they just look cool from the start. I think I read somewhere that he helped design characters like Haku and Zabuza and I think the third Hokage even, so clearly he's skilled at designing characters, and you can see that reflected with some of his own characters like Ishiki and Kashin Koji and Jigen and Kawaki. Basically all the Kara members look really cool. I don't have complaints for any of the Kara members. If anything, I didn't really like Base Code's design that much. I thought he was kind of weird, but in his new Unlimited vampire-like design, I actually kind of mess with him too. So it's really honestly just the characters that already have a foundation of what they should look like through decades of Kishimoto drawing them in Naruto, and then when Ikimoto draws them, he changes them a bit or tries to make them his style, and it doesn't always work. He's gotten better at it, but for the most part, he just honestly just stops drawing characters that he's not good at drawing. He's like, I can't draw you, you're gone from the story. Like Kakashi, where the hell's Kakashi at? I actually do want to see Ikimoto draw Kakashi. I think he'd do a pretty good job. That man is nowhere to be found. So even though I am a fan of Ikimoto's art, I think the haters are partially right that Boruto probably deserved a better artist, considering it's a sequel to one of the best-selling mangas of all time. Ikimoto's inconsistency and just these small nitpicky things I have take away from the story sometimes. But at the same time, I do think he's done a good job at emulating Kishimoto's style and carrying on the torch. When he's really dipping in his bag, he does a pretty damn good job. Another thing I wanted to touch on is the whole assistant debate, whether or not Ikimoto actually has assistants working with him on Boruto. For whatever reason, there's just been this rumor circulating online that Ikimoto doesn't have assistants working with him at all. I think anyone who actually believes that is kind of crazy. That is not at all indicative of why the Boruto art style is the way it is, because the fact is he has assistants. He's working on the sequel to one of the big three. Like, clearly he's gonna have some sort of help. I think in an interview with Ikimoto's editor, he states verbatim that there are 3 or 4 or even more assistants helping Ikimoto make chapters every single month, so yeah, he's got help. They draw the backgrounds, they help inking and hatching, draw shadow clones, that sort of thing. Ikimoto has assistants, I just wanted to clear that up. There are so many people misinformed about this for who knows why, I don't really know. Basically every other week I see a post like, Boruto, if Ikimoto had assistants, and it's some god tier art that was, for one, done digitally that Ikimoto doesn't even do, and secondly, not something that really aligns with Kishimoto's style that we're trying to emulate, and then third of all, well, he has assistants, so nothing's gonna change. But yeah, overall, I think I went all over the place. This video is probably not structured very well at all. I apologize for that. But overall, I wanted to say that while I do have complaints with the Boruto manga, and a lot of complaints people have are valid, I also think Boruto's actually come a long way, and the art style may not be up to par with what people are expecting, or some of the crazy shit out nowadays like JJK or My Hero Academia, etc, etc. I do think it's pretty decent. Ikimoto definitely has room to improve, and I hope he does throughout the course of Two Blue Vortex, but honestly, I really like a lot of the art he puts out, and when he's at his best, he does the Boruto manga justice. But yeah, that's about it. Smash the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, let me know in the comments what your favorite Boruto manga chapter cover is. I'm kind of curious to hear what people say about that. And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace out, boys.